Ester and Dae went to school. It was Thursday, and nothing special that day other than occasionally over the microphone system the superintendent announced another student had been accepted at a prestigious university, and that a large number of students were continuing their education that was pretty much going to be paid for by the scholarship fund. By 6th hour, though, this was Thursday. The state cross-country run is Saturday. They weren't going to run today in 6th hour. They all met in the gymnasium, and Ms. Strong told them that a Chicago travel bus, was going to take them all to Marco Polo's for women at the Wilson Barnett Mall, and they would all be allowed to select a gothic outfit of any amount they want. And they had all known this. But the bus was ready, and Ms. Strong reminded him. And then afterwards they were going to go have some fun bowling at AC Lanes. So at any rate, the bus pulled in, and the girls all fit into the bus. It was a very large bus, and it took off for the mall, and it was allowed to pull up very close to Marco Polo's for women. Well, actually, it's called Polo's for Women. And there was a stage set up out front, and a very large banner that said, "Welcome, 6th hour class from Grant High School." And so Marco Polo was there with a dozen or more of his employees, and they all welcomed the girls, and Marco Polo himself ran up to the bus and welcomed each girl as she came off the bus. There were 3 networks there filming this, and they had all gained information and awareness that these girls were probably going to accomplish something very impressive on Saturday. But they were even more impressed with the fact that Marco Polo was going to provide gothic clothing outfits for 60 girls, including their instructors, so it'd be 61. Marco made a small speech saying how, as he welcomed each girl for stepping off the bus, he could tell that they were all strong, wonderful, healthy, excited individuals they were going to accomplish a lot in their life. And he said he was excited and proud to be part of it, and that his company was going to provide a gothic outfit for each girl, and they would have the next couple of hours, if they chose, to find the clothing that they wanted. The complete east wing of his store was closed off to the general public, and only the 6-hour class would be available or able to go in and shop. And so he also told them, as you leave, if you leave dressed in your new gothic outfits, you can have your photos taken by a professional photographer, and he will provide you a small portfolio of photos in your new outfits for you. And so he then said, "We are proud to welcome you to Marco's for Women," and he opened the front doors. The girls all ran in, and for well over an hour, they all were enjoying checking out all the different clothes. Marco's for Women had expanded their gothic clothing selection immensely. This was Chicago, and gothic dress is catching on, very large. So the girls ran around. Ester and Dae were having a lot of fun. Dae already had plenty of gothic clothing, but she enjoyed shopping. And between she and Ester, they found some wonderful clothes. And as they left, along with other students, a lot of the photographers would come running up, or their employees, soliciting that they come to them and be photographed. Well, 3 people ran up to Ester and Dae, 2 young males, and then one attractive Oriental-looking woman, and she was Korean. And Ester spoke to her in Korean and said to her, "You're of Korean descent, aren't you?" And the girl looked puzzled because obviously Ester looked very pale and white and American. And she said, "My parents were born in Korea. I was born here." So Ester said, "Well, my sister is Korean and I am Chinese. We would like to be photographed together. Would your employer allow that?" And the girl could see that Ester and Dae were closely bonded. And so she said, "Follow me, please." And she took him over to a corner out in the front that had been set up for photography. And she said to her father, 2 sisters would like to be photographed, and they are very special, and they would like to be photographed together." And her dad said, "Well, why are they special?" And she said, "Well, one is Korean, and the other says she's Chinese, but she looks American." And her father immediately knew who they were because the Korean community spoke highly of Dae's father. And so he said, bring him here. And so his name was Park Woo. He bowed to him and he said, we will photograph the two of you together. And he asked his daughter, my daughter's name is Clara, he told him. And he asked Clara to stay with him. And so he started giving directions. He asked Clara to take their packages and put them to the side. And then he asked Ester and Dae to stand in front of the scenery. And he did a large number of different shots. And Ester and Dae seemed almost extremely natural in positioning themselves in different poses and positions. And they would take their jackets off and put them back on. And Mr. Woo would position them around in different poses, and they did extremely well. And Mr. Woo seemed to be having a lot of fun photographing them. And eventually Ms. Strong, the 6-hour teacher, came up and said, I'm afraid it's time to go. And she said that to Clara, and Clara went to her father and said, Father, it appears that we have to stop because the girls will have to leave now. And he smiled and he said, I enjoyed myself so much I lost track of time. And so he went up to Ester and Dae and he bowed to them and he said, I had a great time. And he says, I will contact you when the photos are ready. So Ms. Strong had turned around, went back to the bus, and Ester and Dae picked up their packages. And before they left, Ester said to Mr. Woo, she says, I believe you will be approached by some people wanting a set of our photographs. She said, sell them to them for $6,000, no more, no less. Tell them I set the price. And she smiled. And she said, thank you for photographing us together. And she started to leave. And then she paused and turned around. And in Korean, she said to Mr. Woo that these are dangerous people. Sell them our photographs for $6,000, no more, no less, and tell them I set the price. She smiled and left. So all the girls jumped into the bus. They were off to AC Lane's bowling alley. It was an extremely large bowling alley. They were busy, but about 12 lanes had been blocked off, and another large banner at the end of the lanes had been put up welcoming the 6-hour Grant High students. And so all the girls started to enjoy bowling. And they also were given free sandwiches for dinner. Most everybody had hamburgers and fries, and they were extremely good. And Esther wasn't quite able to master bowling, and everybody was laughing. She rolled quite a few gutter balls. Well, bowling takes a while to learn. So, as they finished up and they started back to the bus, one news station had stayed with them, and they were still filming the students. And the night was just about over, and the girls were all loading up to the bus. They went back to school, and everybody found their way home. Ester and Dae went back home. They had really enjoyed the night. Dae was staying with Esther again. And by the time they got home, Dae said, "I am exhausted. I have to go to bed." And Esther said, "Well, I will join you in a little while. I'm going to do some correspondence and run my exercises." And so Esther did all that. And then she was showering, went into the shower room. She looked at her dragon in the mirror as she prepared to go into the shower, and she thought to herself, the dragon looked happy tonight for some reason. Even though she realized the dragon always looks the same, but it looked happy to her, and she was pleased with that. So she took her shower, and then she dried her hair. She had washed her hair, dried it with a hair dryer, was enjoying that. And when she was done, she went into the bedroom, put on some yellow silk pajamas, made her think of China a little bit. And just as she was about ready to go to bed, she saw a blinking red light, which was someone at the front door. So she went to the front, turned on a video monitor, and saw that it was her good friend John, who ran the Department of he ran data. Department of something, terrorist activities. Oh, Department of Advanced Terrorist Activities. So anyway, she double checked the people, and it was him. So she let him in, and John came in looking exhausted and tired, and Esther knew that he had a good reason for being there, but she joked with him. She says, "Hey, John, you don't have your tie on tonight. Is there a reason for that?" And John said, "I took my tie off 6 hours ago when I was exhausted." He said, "Esther, I need your help." And so Esther, realizing John was extremely serious. She stood back and listened.